Opening day, we'll kick off with the top 100 prospects in the game. We have two of those. We have number 53, Jacob Wilson, the 2023 first rounder, and Joshua Mears, the right-handed power bat we just traded for. He will not be a prospect for much longer, considering he's opening the season on the Major League roster. Here are your preseason predictions for the American League. The Orioles, Guardians, and Rangers are your projected division winners. Here are your projected top players in the American League. We don't have any of those. We don't have any projected top players, but I will point out, even though we're projected to finish with 67 wins, we were projected 70 last year, and we ended up winning 78, I believe. So we can definitely beat that. In the National League, projected division winners are the Braves, Cardinals, and Dodgers. Here are the top projected players in the National League. Thought I'd do a quick review of noteworthy trades from the offseason. It looks like the Giants have traded Jorge Soler to the Detroit Tigers in exchange for this Double-A outfielder. Seiya Suzuki, who we saw on the trade block earlier, goes to Baltimore. He also gets some cash sent with him in return for Connor Norby, as well as this starting pitcher, Michael Knorr. San Francisco also traded Matt Chapman, so I guess they're rebuilding or trying to cut salary in return for a prospect package. Big one here, Kevin Gausman to New York. He still has 2 years left on his deal in exchange for Chase Hampton and George Lombard Jr. I like this trade. It feels somewhat realistic to me. I mean, Chase Hampton's a pretty hyped pitching prospect. George Lombard Jr., their 2023 first rounder, I think he'll be really good. I guess the Blue Jays are trying to shed salary and rebuild as well because they trade the recently extended Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and cash for a prospect package from the Padres, no doubt headlined by the starting pitcher Dylan Lesko. Blue Jays also trading Chris Bassett and Jordan Romano to San Diego in separate deals. This one's kind of a head-scratcher. Zach Gallen here for just a seemingly all-right prospect for the New York Mets in return. Another guy who looks like he got traded and then the Mets extended him, would be my guess. Luis Arraez goes to Toronto in a trade that includes some interesting prospect names as well. Brandon Marsh and Dylan Carlson get swapped, as well as Chase Davis included in this trade. And the Reds bolster their starting rotation. They receive not just Dylan Cease this past offseason, but also Brandon Pfaadt. And here's what the trade deadline looked like last year. I will point out real quick that this is actually Jackson Churio's brother. I didn't want to give any Milwaukee Brewer fans a heart attack. And here's your annual Shohei Ohtani check-in. Spent a lot of last year injured, fractured hand, followed by a concussion, so only 82 plate appearances. He was great in those 82 plate appearances. And then he also did return to pitch just a little bit, started 4 games, good ratios, but, not particularly great ERA. But that's your Shohei Ohtani check-in. I've noticed they can't really do the deferred money in-game like the Dodgers have actually signed him in real life. So they've given him the actual value of the contract with inflation baked in, which I think is smart. And here's a look at our minor league system. It's young. We've got a lot of guys in rookie ball. It's a lot of catchers. It's a lot of great defensive outfielders. It's not a lot of big bats, and it's not a lot of pitching. Some of our top prospects right now, at least by projected potential, would include Julio Ledesma, who is sort of our biggest international amateur signing, as well as Trent Colcott, also an international signing. James Nunnally, another catcher, who was our second-round pick. You'll recall that we did not sign our first-round picks, so we will have 2 first-round picks, and hopefully that's a chance to hit on some top-end talent for sure. Jacob Wilson is our top-rated prospect for now. I don't really have too many thoughts about him. Maybe he may project more as a second baseman for us overall, I would have to say, which is interesting because of, Geloff, and you already have Brennan Malone, who's barely a prospect to begin with, but he's in AAA as well, so maybe that'll sort itself out eventually. Silas Ardoin and Enrique Bradfield Jr., who we got from the Baltimore trade, they will start in Double-A. And, Wilson, the aforementioned Wilson, and Max Muncy also promoted to Double-A between the end of the last year's regular season and this season. It's the day before our first game of the season. I will point out Luis Medina and Austin Adams were DFA'd. They did not make the team out of spring training, mostly due to poor spring training performances. And because they don't have options, they were DFA'd. We'll see if either of them will accept a demotion to AAA. Let's try Medina first. He accepts it. Let's see Austin Adams. He declines, so we may have to find a way to get rid of Austin Adams here. I guess I'll just cut him because I'm trying to generally limit the amount of trades I make. I do about 3 in the offseason, maybe 2 around the trade deadline. I don't know if that's a strict rule, but I'm trying to limit the amount of trades. So even though it'd be extremely minor one, I'll just have to eat his contract, which you'll recall I did, tender him a contract. So that's going to be 1.3 million. Not a big deal to me. It's time for opening day, and we will be facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. Jordan Walker has turned into a beast for them. They have Sonny Gray as their ace, and our ace will be Mr. J.P. Sears. So let's start this game. Hopefully we can get a win. You'll recall that we lost in extras to Cleveland on last year's opening day. Ooh, a beautiful stadium flyby look. I haven't seen this one yet. Okay, first batter of the season, Victor Scott II leading off. Pulled down the first, and past our first baseman. That's Ryan Noda, I believe. Will it be extra bases? Probably with Victor Scott's speed. Yes, indeed. So a leadoff double. Not the greatest start to the year. Lars Nootbaar up next. This one, it's going to be caught by the right fielder. Will there be a tag? Nope. We have Clark in right field today. Jordan Walker, the scary hitter. He's going to get a base hit. Is Scott going to come around to score? Clark throwing it back into the infield. And no, Scott will be forced to stop at third. So runners on the corners, 1 out here in the first inning. Nolan Gorman, who is replacing Paul Goldschmidt, who left in free agency. We can't turn 2, but we do manage to keep the runner at third because that ball is hit back to the pitcher. So facing Arenado, got a chance to get out of this 2-1 pitch, and that will get through. That'll be the first run of the year for St. Louis. Going first to third here is Gorman, I think. I don't know. Who's on third? Yep, Gorman. And then Mason Wynn, who's also developing well. Ooh, a wild pitch, passed ball, and that's a run. That really hurts. 0-2 count, strikeout. But that's not a great start to the year for us. St. Louis taking a 2-0 lead in the first. Ryan Noda. Ryan Noda cranks one to right field, get out ball, tie this game up. There it goes. A home run, 365 feet. And just like that, we are tied up even 2-2. And I haven't noticed this, but St. Louis has brought in Brian Mitchell. So Sonny Gray also got injured. I must have missed that at some point. Yeah, there you go. Sprained ankle, 4 days. So within the first inning, they've lost Sonny Gray. We've lost Zach Geloff. Joshua Mears, he's our big righty power bat acquisition here in the bottom of the fourth. Has a Oppo Taco home run, solo shot to make it 3-4. Love that for us. Oh, Denzel Clark. He cranks one to left. And we've got 3 home runs today already. That'll make it 5-2. And then Nolan Arenado gets a single. All right. I would say we are 1 base runner away from bringing in Scott Effross here, but I'll let him face Mason Wynn. 3-1. That ball is hit to the gap, but Clark is able to close it down. Through 6, or I guess through 5.5, the score is still 5. No, sorry, through 6. How many innings are we through? 5.5. Through 5.5, the score is 5-2. That brings up Mears, who himself has a home run already today. And he'll add a base hit up the middle as well. So doing a little bit of everything is Joshua Mears. Also made a nice diving catch in the left. Shea Langoliers. And that ball is going to be a base hit as well. Do we have a 2-out rally going here? Mears looks like he wants to go to third, testing the arm of Walker. And he is safe. Don't want to make the third out at third base. And this is Clark. Will that ball get down? Yes, it will. A nice little 2-out rally for us right there. We get another run. Langoliers also coming home. So that's going to make it 7-2. We are looking a lot better today than we did against Cleveland on opening day last year. Runners on first and second. And Santander. Yeah, we may just be a 2-out rally team. Can we score on this play? That is the question. Yep. An RBI for Santander. 8-2. Joshua Mears strikes out. But seriously, great hitting with 2 outs today. With a 6-run lead, I'm bringing in Michael Kelly, who would normally be more of a middle innings reliever for us, but he's going to hopefully close this one out for us. Not a save situation. There's going to be Gorman. It's like a lazy fly to left. Caught by Mears. Nolan Arenado now. That's going to be a single for him just over the head of our third baseman, Triolo. Mason Wynn. Infield pop-up. Caught by the first baseman, Noda. 2 outs. Their last hope is Tommy Edman. Ground out to second, taken by Geloff. We have a win on opening day, 8-2. Great team win. Here's your box score. The Bats really got into this one. A 3-hit day for Denzel Clark, 4 RBIs, including a home run. And then good pitching overall, too. JP Sears, rough in the first, settled down, got through 6, and then the bullpen was pretty much spotless. So great team win for us on opening day. Hopefully a sign of things to come. Well, we may have won on opening day, but in terms of our division, everyone won on opening day. So that's a nice little splash of cold water for us. First bit of news here, we're off to a 5-7 start, so not exactly a hot start. Shea Langolier's back stiffness moderately influences his running, minimal hitting. It's a 2-week recovery time. I'm thinking it's a long season. I can just put him on the injured list and, not worry about him, having a longer absence because it's only April. In return, we'll be calling up Mr. Anthony Seigler, which I'm kind of excited about. He did not hit for us particularly well at AA last year, but off to a hot start in AAA. Good defensive catcher, switch hitter. I'm just going to give him a run in the majors real quick just to see what he can do for us in a couple weeks. The 2025 draft pool has been revealed. It is headlined by Ethan Holiday, brother of Jackson, son of Matt. April 21st, Langoliers is back. Seigler not particularly impressive in his brief spell, but it was brief. We are 10-12. Mostly because the vast majority of our lineup is hitting below the Mendoza line. Ryan Noda is not. He's off to a good start. Denzel Clark is just above the Mendoza line. But Jared Triolo, shockingly, hitting .333 through his first 20 games of the season. Will he maintain this? Probably not. But he has been our most impressive bat and probably just player overall so far, which is surprising because he almost lost his starting job in the spring. This is our May scouting report. Some bad news on some recent draftees for us, including our former second rounder, James Nunnally. He's maybe not as impressive. Akil Namala, maybe not as impressive as we initially thought. The good news is on Jacob Wilson. Look at what's going on here with Jacob Wilson, particularly his offensive stats. His current ratings are coming up. His potential ratings are coming up. And he's looking like he could be a pretty serious player for us in the majors soon. The question is where, right? Because Triolo's off to a hot start. And Geloff is not. So I would think maybe normally Jacob Wilson second base or maybe Jacob Wilson third base, keep Geloff at second. But with Triolo and Geloff doing what they're doing, it's a little bit of a hazy outlook for now. But I'm excited for Jacob Wilson. May 16th, we are 17-28. I'm not sure if it was ever this dire last year. I'm not ever sure if we were this bad. I had high expectations, but weird things going on here. Joshua Mears pacing for 259 strikeouts. He's striking out, looks like over 40% of the time. I don't know how sustainable that is. And you would think, oh, well, the good news is you have Miguel Sano, right? Well, he has a 36 OPS plus. So my pursuit of a right-handed power bat has not been fruitful so far. Anthony Santander is the biggest disappointment, though. Just unplayable. I mean, I don't know. I have no words for how bad he's been. How is it possible that Anthony Santander could ever hit this bad? Shea Langolier's not hitting well. Triolo has cooled off a little bit, but his numbers on the season are still good. Honestly, the surprise breakout for us, I guess, is Denzel Clark. Denzel Clark pacing for a 3-WAR season. Biggest reason for our regression, we were a bad offensive team last year, admittedly. Biggest reason for our regression is the FIP here. Our FIP as a team is 11th in the league, and so even though I would say the defense is still doing its job, our starter ERA, in particular our bullpen ERA, are not as good as they were, and I'm probably going to at this point try to rearrange the bullpen some because the current configuration just is not working. Michael Kelly with an ERA of 6, as many walks as strikeouts, and I mean this guy was really good for us last year. It was night and day. So we have some options down there in AAA, but I'm going to try to rearrange the bullpen because that's the main thing I can think to do to try to keep us competitive here. May 19th, Kyle Muller, who you recall was injured in spring training, has suffered a pretty major setback and will be out for at least 12 more months. So it's going to be a while before we see him. That is certainly some bad news, especially with how the bullpen has been performing lately. May 31st here, we are 24-33. Nick Ahmed, 5-week hamstring strain. This is one of those positions where At shortstop in particular, we don't have a great answer. I guess Nick Allen is the guy who would slot in, but we'll just have to see. But this is a position that we're not necessarily fit to replace. I will bring up Brendan Malone in a corresponding move, but I will not give him a spot in the lineup. I think just, Nick Allen defensively is the one guy we have who can play this position. And like Nick Ahmed, he will continue to bat ninth. The guys in the locker room might not even notice the difference. They're just like, yep, Nick's at shortstop. Doing a little June 1st check-in. Langoliers and Geloff in particular have been disappointing. They're about, 60 OPS plus hitters, and that's been particularly disappointing because I'm trying to, keep some original Oakland A's around, and they're not really pulling their weight. Santander, though, still, just absolutely dreadful, and I just don't know what to do about this situation. He's, we owe him some money on his contract. Thankfully, Baltimore is covering the majority of it, but he's just dreadful right now. It's really sad to see. I wonder, is it a BABIP issue? Let's look at expanded batting stats. Yeah, okay, 172 BABIP. All right. That makes me feel a little bit better. That makes me feel like maybe it's not all his fault. But yeah, and then Mears is a weird one. He's, he strikes out a ton, but he's also pacing for 26 homers, and we don't really have righty power bat answer because Sano's been dreadful too. But Triolo continues to be one of our better hitters overall, and Denzel Clark is the real surprise. A 131 OPS plus. We've made it so that he's now a full-time outfielder for us. He's no longer splitting time with Lawrence Butler against righties. And we'll just have to see. But the Geloff thing in particular is tricky to navigate because you'll just have to see what's going on with our prospects right now. Prospect check-in, rookie ball, at least domestically. So the Arizona Complex League has kicked off. So we have seen the debut of some of our draftees, including the second rounder, James Nunnally. You'll recall that our first rounder, Connor Griffith, didn't sign. So this was our highest drafted guy, James Nunnally, the catcher. In A-ball, it's interesting. We have guys like Green and Morales who their potential ratings have come down, but they're performing extremely well. Rodney Green has 18 home runs in 44 games there, which is making me think I should probably just go ahead and promote him to high A. That would be Lansing, the Lansing Lugnuts. High A, we also have Henry Bolt. He's not doing particularly well there. Double A, we should probably talk about Jacob Wilson because Jacob Wilson, I've been playing him at second base some just to see, but his OPS is over 1,100. He's hitting 387. He is knocking on the doors to the big leagues for sure. He gets a promotion to Triple A. I guess the solution is to play him at shortstop. That is going to destroy what we're trying to do defensively to some extent because shortstop is so important, but it would be him shortstop, Triolo third, Geloff second. That's still probably what makes the most sense if he makes it to the big leagues this year, which I imagine he will. Enrique Bradfield also looking pretty good down there in Double A, although I'm going to leave him here for now. And then Brock Jones, I realize, they've been using Bradfield in center because obviously, so Jones hasn't been a full-time player. He only has 80 plate appearances so far, so I've made sure to set him up so that they'll play him in left field. Which is how I would normally play him with a guy like Bradfield in center, but he's off to a incredible start as well. So some good news from the farm system. We'll just have to see what we can get going at the major league level. And I guess it's just going to keep getting worse. June 10th, 26-39 record. Kyle Isbell injury, torn ankle ligaments. This is a new one for me. I've never heard of this one in game, but that's a shame because he was pacing for a 4-WAR season. And we weren't even letting him face lefties, so he was a strong side platoon bat. This is going to make Denzel Clark our permanent center fielder, but we're going to have to do some rearranging otherwise. We are in need of another outfielder. Our best options are probably Lazarito or Daz Cameron, who are both on our 40-man. I'm going to go with Daz just because he's been hitting a little bit better, but I don't expect either of these guys to get too much playing time. I guess what I'll do versus righties, and the righty lineup is the one that really needs the tweaking, is just put Santander in the outfield. Let's put him in left. Let's put Mears in right. And then we'll probably bring in Sano to DH for now, although he's still not doing particularly well. June 14th, we're 27-41. I will point out the division is not that great this year. We're still only 8.5 games back compared to 10.5 for a wild card spot, so we're not totally out of it despite what has been objectively a pretty bad start to our season. Scherzer is really making me scratch my head because he's allowed 7 and 5 runs in his last couple starts. He's been pretty much poor all year. His ratings aren't that great, although honestly, I feel like he should be pitching better. His extreme fly ball profile is probably where I've gone wrong. That has not really fit the team all that well. But I'm considering moving him to the bullpen and bringing up Brady Basso because I just feel like he's probably a better rotation piece right now. Like earlier when he was struggling, I thought, okay, I'll just trade him at the deadline and that'll be around when Walker Buehler comes back and that'll be a pretty easy, transition to make. Now I kind of think just use him as a reliever. And a $3 million reliever isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just not going to make him happy because he expects to be in the starting rotation because he's Max Scherzer. JP Sears has also not been nearly as good as he was last year, but I think I'm going to send down Adrian Martinez here, put Scherzer in the bullpen, bring up Basso to the rotation. So there's Basso back up. It was probably a mistake just to not have him in the opening day rotation to begin with. I didn't like his strikeout to walk ratio in the majors, but hard to argue with that ERA from last year. And even this ERA right here is a 130 ERA plus just because in AAA, the ball is flying like crazy. We're playing at altitude. And I will point out also in terms of the rotation, Tyler Wells has been a very nice surprise for us. And he was sort of the throw-in in the Santander trade, and he has been much more valuable compared to Santander. June 27th, we are 30-50. This feels like just a low point in terms of the save overall, but there is some good news, a light at the end of the tunnel perhaps. Walker Buehler eligible to return from the injured list. I don't know exactly how we'll carve out a rotation spot for him, but what we can definitely do is get him on the path to the majors with a rehab assignment in the minors. This just makes sense to do because, it's been a long time since he's pitched in this game. So we're going to give him the full course, 30 days in the minors, and that'll be around the trade deadline when he's ready to come back, and we'll see what to do with the team. It is July 1st, and I'm starting to get ideas. I'm starting to realize how I really need to align this team. One important piece of news, Jacob Wilson, the batter of the month in the PCL. I would say he's ready. I would say he's big league ready, just the way he has performed this year between AA and AAA. Only 65 games, but the numbers absolutely speak for themselves. So here's how I want to do it, and I've had some thoughts on this. I want to play Wilson at shortstop for now. Nick Ahmed still has 1 week left. And then I think the idea is once we get to the trade deadline, we probably trade Triolo. Triolo's having a pretty good year by his standards still, a 100 OPS plus hitter. We may be able to get some value for him. And then once we do that, we can play Geloff at third, Nick Ahmed at short, and Wilson at second. And we'll have sort of a more natural look to the left side of our infield. So that means I'm going to send down Brennan Malone and call up Jacob Wilson. I've been using him at second base in the minors because I think that's where he fits in, long-term for this team most likely. But we will make sure that he is used as a shortstop, at least for these next few weeks. July 1st prospect update. I decided to promote Trent Colcott and Julio Ledesma. Those were our two best international amateur signings, so they are out of the complex, and they will play in the Dominican Summer League. Let's see who else we have news on. Adrian Santana, I would say, of our guys playing in Arizona, has been probably the most impressive. He's pacing to steal a lot of bases, and I'm a big fan of his game. I'm glad we got him in that trade with Tampa. I think the more interesting updates are probably higher up. We have promoted both Enrique Bradfield and Brock Jones, and honestly, with the injury to Isbell being what it is, like these guys are really knocking on the door to the big leagues. They could be up here very, very, very soon. And especially because Mears is struggling. He's on pace to strike out like 250 times. He probably needs more seasoning in the minors. He probably needs, to get in the player development lab this offseason to work on his avoid Ks just a little bit. So, I could totally see Bradfield in center and then maybe kick Denzel Clark over to left, and we would just have like a crazy good defensive outfield. And honestly, same with Brock Jones even. So it'll be a competition. We may actually see both of them up, especially if Santander is really that bad. July 9th, we're 36-55. Nick Ahmed is ready to come off the injured list, and long-term, you'll recall that we still want him playing shortstop for us, but he's probably going to have to wait for the trade deadline because we want to trade Triolo and clear out that infield spot for him, because right now shortstop belongs to none other than our first rounder, Jacob Wilson. Not our first rounder, I guess. He was drafted by the previous regime, but Here's his start. He has 10 hits in his first 7 games. He's hitting leadoff for us. But Nick Ahmed will come back, although we will have to demote in return Nick Allen for now. I hope he has options. Please have options. Okay, yeah, he's got options. We're good. And wow, immediately Nick Ahmed has an injury. Diagnosis pending. We'll have to see. Draft is coming up. Out 5 weeks. Wasn't he just out 5 weeks? Wasn't that his previous problem? This is a wrist injury. So, okay, never mind. Nick Allen, come back up and undo everything we just did. All right, Nick Allen, come back up. I know it was really hard. You had to, ride a bus for a week and eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but you are back in the majors, my friend. When we came into this episode at the beginning of the season, I had hopes and dreams, and those hopes and dreams have been dashed, at least so far through the first half of the season. We are 11.5 games off the AL West Division lead. We are 10.5 off of a wild card spot. However, coming up, we do have the draft, and we do have 2 of the top 13 picks. We have the number 6, which is a comp, and then the 13th, which is what we earned last year. We were not in the lottery. So we've got that coming up, but thank you for staying tuned to this OOTP 25 series. I will be back with the 2025 draft.